Well, we are back again. We have more of the Twins free agents that you may have forgotten that they signed. We're still about 15 years out, so we're going to get a lot of content from this. But let's dive in to 2008 and 2009. This is Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello again, and welcome back to Locked On Twins. I'm your host, Brandon Warren. You can unfollow me on the tweets at Brandon_WARNE. Follow me on the skeets at warn.bsky.social. I have been watching the Twins for 30 years, covering them for about half that long, and did so in person for quite some time. And who knows, maybe again some other time. I am joined, as always, by Mr. Dave Brown, BBWAA member since 2012, Hall of Fame voter for the second time this year, and a baseball writer at large since 1998. What up?
This is me pretending to type.
Well,
and I am at large. I wish I was a little smaller, but we'll see what the New Year's resolution brings. But we're not there yet, so it's time to eat for Thanksgiving and pretty soon. And then, so it's I'm done with my little rant there.
Well, hopefully everyone is enjoying their holiday week here as we get prepared for Thanksgiving and all the good things that come with that. We do have coming up this week a very special Thanksgiving episode for you. So get excited, get strapped on for that, strapped in, whatever.
Hey, potty mouth.
I was trying to say strapped in, and
we know what you meant.
Went sideways and backwards and upside down. By the way, you can get started. You can start the season with What's that?
I didn't peg you for one of those kind of guys.
Oh gosh, we had one of those bits with Tom Schreier back on the old Midwest swing days. I'll tell you about that some other time. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. That's the sponsor of today's show. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. By the way, thank you for making Locked On Twins your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube, and, of course, as part of the Locked On Podcast Network, we're your team every day. Love to hear from you in the comments. 5-star reviews are huge for us. If you show us a 5-star review on Apple Pods and a subscription on YouTube, I will send you some baseball cards. I'm actually sending out a care package for a friend, William, here before I leave for Thanksgiving. But we've got some fun cards. I've got some of these old Topps Finest. This one is from 2022, and it's Matt Vierling. They had a few players that were not exactly stars that got some of those Finest cards. But I'll throw in a few interesting ones, and it'll be fun. But again, DM me on the tweets, or if you're on Blue Sky, love to hear from you.
The finest Tigers could do, Matt Vierling. So don't look a gift horse in the mouth.
Shoot. Today's episode is another one of our Remembering Free Agents You've Forgotten. This is part 7. And last time out, we talked about R.A. Dickey. I don't remember who else we talked about.
Yeah, that's enough.
What's that?
That's enough.
Mike Lamb. I was very excited for the Twins to sign Mike Lamb. So we're still in that era. We're slowly, probably not this episode, but next episode, we'll get into the target field era. In fact, the last player who I have listed as Loogie on the screen here on YouTube, if you're not familiar with that comment, it's not as gross as it sounds. That's that player signed. That's the last player who signed in the Metrodome era, August 28th, 2009. So Twins opened Target Field in 2010, and the first player we'll talk about next time around is a reliever who signed in January of 2010. So we are diving right in on August 11th, 2008. The Twins brought back an old friend who they traded for a key pivotal player on their 2003 postseason run. He ended up re-signing with the Twins And that player is Shannon Stewart. Dave Brown, do you remember who they traded for Shannon Stewart?
I used to remember.
You better not be looking it up.
I'm not looking it up.
So lefty mashing, ginger hair, Matt Merton lookalike, Bobby Kelty.
Oh.
So Bobby Kelty was with the Twins starting in 2001. He was with them for 2002. Actually, 2002, Bobby Kelty, probably one of the more underrated seasons in Twins history. 291, 405, 484 slugging percentage. He played in 112 games. That's 2.7 Baseball Reference WAR. The next year, hitting 252, 370, 420 before being traded to Toronto for Shannon Stewart. Stewart ends up being a pivotal hitter slash igniter, if you want to steal Paul Molitor's moniker, at the top of the order for some pretty good Twins ball clubs. Kelty, mostly a corner outfielder, a little bit of first base, did hang in center a little bit. But as I recall him, now this was a different era of baseball where we didn't talk about splits so much and all that. At least as far as like we didn't.
Tom Kelly used to talk about splits because that's why Scott Leyes played. And
we didn't have like the sabermetric stuff we do now. There was versus lefty versus righty. But get this. So Kelty versus righties in 2002. So that big breakout season, 303, 417, 495 against righties. So for whatever reason that I was under the assumption that he was so much better against lefties, that was not the case in 02 in his big breakout season. This is one of the finest seasons by a Twins player that I have not thought about whatsoever. Fourth in Rookie of the Year that year. Let's see here. Rookie of the Year that year. Okay, I'm gonna read it backwards. He tied with an Angels pitcher for fourth. Do you have any guesses?
In which year?
2002.
Bartolo Colon.
Nope. Think of a stocky white righty.
Mike Fetters. No.
There's a famous gif of him shouting a swear word.
Oh, John Lackey.
John Lackey, one of the players who I was shocked at how big he was when I shared an elevator with him one time.
Did you tell him?
No, I was too scared.
Did
you ever talk to him?
Yeah.
Seems kind of intimidating.
Yes, and that's how he liked it. The fewer people he had to deal with, the better.
Not like John Roush intimidating, although one of my favorite John Roush stories, and I don't have John Roush on this list, but he was obviously a Twin right around this era, was he was talking to John Krasinski, who is very well known as a Timberwolves reporter for The Athletic now, but he's not a super big guy. He's pretty small. And John Roush says to him, "I was your size when I was born." And I still just, to this day, think that is absolutely.
Roush said that?
Yeah. And
that's hilarious.
The more that time goes on, I don't know if he was like joking. He's kind of an intense guy. Anyway,
that's that delivery.
Yeah.
That's a C section and a D section.
Next up on the list, third in Rookie of the Year voting in 02, a right-handed reliever for the Baltimore Orioles with JJ initials.
JJ Putz.
Jorge Julio.
Oh, Jorge Julio, yes.
Big righty from Baltimore finished second, 3.7 Fangraphs WAR. As I recall, couldn't really throw strikes.
Well, he had two first names, so he was not a settled person.
No, actually, I'm moving up to number 2. Jorge Julio, though, correct. Didn't really throw strikes. Rodrigo Lopez was second.
Oh, yeah. Two guys that I remember as being very similar.
Yep. And then number one. I'll give you a hint. He has been a first base coach, or might still be.
Wayne Terwilliger.
No, with the Cubs last year. Now I think he moved on to the Braves.
It's not Willie Harris. I was third base coach. Oh, Michael Napoli.
Nope. EH.
Oh, Eric. With the Rays and Eric Hinsky, yes.
Eric Hinsky. So Bobby Kelty was fourth that year. I did not know he was fourth. And actually, there were some Twins who got down ballot votes. Tony Fiore was eighth, tied for eighth. He got one.
I don't remember Tony Fiore.
10 wins in 2002, 55 strikeouts, 43 walks, and 10 home runs allowed in 91 innings. So again, gotta love those pitcher wins from a reliever. And then Dustin.
That was around the time I got a full-time job at the newspaper. So I knew more about the White Sox and Cubs in those days. So a Tony Fiore would have slipped under the radar in 2002.
No White Sox in the top 10. Tony Fiore, Mark Ellis, Dustin Moore, and Carlos Pena tied for eighth. Mark Pryor was seventh in the NL for some reason. Anyway, Jason Jennings that year in the NL. Let's take our first.
Amazing.
What's that?
Jason Jennings with the Rockies.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. Also a huge butt. Jason Jennings.
Yeah. Well, I thought you said lost, but what you said was even funnier. All right. Let's take a break. When we come back, we have a Yankees cast-off, a three-time futures gamer, a veteran second base.
Three futures gamer.
Right.
You here again?
I did not even, at some point, it's like the Dippin' Dots of baseball. Like, when is the future? You keep saying you're the future, but now is the future. It's already the past now.
Back.
Yeah. All right. Let's take this break. Dave, we got a new sponsor, and it's one that I think I'm going to really like, and maybe you too, as you're, I think you're looking at it on the screen. Omaha Steaks.
I see it.
Nothing sounds better to me at this time of year than sitting down with family for a nice meal. Obviously, turkey, ham, and all that will be on the calendar and the table for Thanksgiving. But when I'm making my signature meal for my family, steak is way up there on the list. I sous vide it, so I cook it in water in a shrink wrap, and then I cook it to the right temperature, and then I finish it with a sear. Perfect steaks every single time. Omaha Steaks.
Gordon Ramsay, wow.
Yeah, right. Omaha Steaks is the way to go. Nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. This year, skip the holiday hustle and bustle and save 50% off site-wide during their cyber sale at omahasteaks.com. They're the favorite steaks of Johnny Giavotella. Giavotella. No, I'm kidding. He was the player that was constantly up and down between Omaha and Kansas City.
I appreciate the reference, but
yeah, right. As good as Chris gets. Plus, get a $30 reward card when you shop early and score an extra $30 off with promo code MLB. With 5 generations, count it 5, of experience, Omaha Steaks consistently delivers the world's best steak experience, and their gifting experts have made it easy to deliver the perfect gift with thoughtfully curated gift packages starting at $89.99. Boy, it's hard to read that when it's written out in digits instead of numbers. Or written out in words instead of numbers. From legendary steaks to mouthwatering desserts and more, save 50% off site-wide during the cyber sale at omahasteaks.com. And again, our listeners get an extra $30 off with promo code MLB and a $30 reward card when you shop early. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $30 off with promo code MLB. Minimum purchase does apply. But again, check out Omaha Steaks.
You people out there gotta take advantage of Omaha Steaks, because you can go to a restaurant these days. You go to the wrong one and you get a steak and it's like $97. How did that happen? So this is a good deal for good meat. And you got to make it yourself. So yeah. It's not like going to a restaurant, but sometimes the best steaks that you can eat are ones that you make yourself or however you do it.
The unsolicited advice. The sous vide is it clamps onto a pot or a bowl or whatever. It looks like a hand blender, but it clamps on. I actually made chicken with it last night, and you set it to the temperature and it heats the water to that temperature. Well, if your temperature is 125, like I do for steaks, your steak will never rise above that temperature, and it will cook thoroughly, and it can sit in that temperature for days if you want. I'll do a steak for 4 or 5 hours and then quick throw on the grill, but I'll sous vide it in butter and garlic, or if you want to do Lowry seasoned salt, whatever it is, and it cooks to that temperature. Your inside will be the perfect color, top to bottom, that you want it. get the sear that you like, and it's a perfect cut of meat every single time. I screwed up last time, and it cooked it to 165, and I had hockey pucks. So again, make sure you get the right temperature.
Ooh.
Sous vide
Yeah,
is
that's 165. That's like a chicken temperature, isn't it?
Yeah. See, the problem was I set it to 125, and then I hit play, like the play button. It looks like a play button.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't set the right time, and so it defaulted back to 165, and for a half hour cooked at that temperature. Not that anybody cares, but try sous vide for your steaks. It's really, truly great. On December 16th, 2008, so the Twins were in their they're like in the midst of their loogie era. Now, if you are not familiar with the terminology from that timeline, I don't know if it was Baseball Prospectus kind of did it. It was kind of that era, but it was short for lefty one out guy. And so in the era where left-handed specialists were king, I'd say like early 2000s to like not that long ago, really, before the 3-batter minimum became a thing, you'd see guys get like 3-year deals for $5 million a year, like Antonio Bastardo getting 3 years and $18 million for being decent against lefties. Or who was that guy from the Blue Jays? There was a nasty lefty from the Blue. What's that?
Mark Zepchinski.
Well, Zepchinski, yep, Scrabble was good. Aaron Loop was also another guy who was good.
The Angels gave him too much money one year, I remember.
Yes. Randy Flores, the Twins brought in one year, and he wasn't particularly good. I called him El Nogi, which was lefty no-out guy. That didn't catch on.
I wonder why.
And then Brian Fuentes wasn't a loogie, but he was a left-hand reliever the Twins brought in 1 year, too. A lot of different lefty relievers. In the pursuit of that, on December 16th, 2008, they brought in a Yankees cast-off that I bet you haven't heard this name in a long time. Sean Henn.
Who?
Sean, Henn, Sean Henn.
Sean Henn, yeah.
It's probably more because of like my coming of age in the baseball community. This is hysterical, but I joined a website called Net Sports, and it was a forum. And do you want to know how I found it? I searched baseball.com when I was 17 years old. And at baseball.com, there was like rumors on the front page. Then you click forum, and then you would talk on the forums about, and it was a very Yankee populated site. So like I was in like 2005, I knew that Tony Womack's nickname was Tony Blomack because he was so bad that year. And a lot of Red Sox too, like Red Sox fans. So the height of that rivalry to me was like 04, 03, 04, 05, obviously playing in the playoffs and all that. But to see the spirit of it between these fans, like it was cool to see that played out in a more local, like me seeing it from fans going back and forth. And so maybe that's why I remember Sean Henn better than you, because the Yankee fans were just so sure that Sean Henn was going to be tops. Now, he
was terrible.
He was real bad, like -2 WAR, 7.42 ERA in 64 games. And like there was an era where they had a lot of prospects that everybody talked about nonstop. And it was Phil Hughes and I'm trying to think, Jeff Karstens was even on that list. And I want to say, was Humberto Mejia one of those guys? Ended up getting traded. They had a bunch of guys that were, because they were Yankees, they were overrated in the minds of Yankee fans. And I feel like Sean Henn was one of those guys where it was like, Sean Henn's going to be a big deal. And boy, was he not. And he spent part of 2009 with the Twins. And there's a reason why, because he had a 7.15 ERA, which is an improvement on his career number. 9 strikeouts, 8 walks, and 11 1/3 innings, gave up a couple homers, and was promptly dispatched. Now, the Twins in this era had Dennis Reyes. They had, who was the guy? Craig Breslow, a couple different times. And another one we'll talk about here later at the end of the show, because I do have one other guy pulled. But yeah, so they were searching for the next great lefty. I think this was actually after Reyes had kind of hit his peak and then moved on. Jose Mijares was another one. I'm sure you don't remember him, but he played for the Giants.
Jose Mijares, yes.
Big dude, had kind of like these intense eyes. But yeah, so Sean Hen, absolutely terrible. CJ Nitkowski actually came to camp with the Twins that year, one of those years. I still love the story that goes, his son was pitched poorly, and the wife said, don't worry, at least when you pitch poorly, we don't have to move like when Dad does.
Wow.
Isn't that such a good line?
That's
or at least when you pitch badly, we don't have to move like when Dad does.
It's true, too. It puts things in perspective.
It really does.
It was so bad. 7.42 ERA, 83 innings in his career, 15 home runs. That's not great. 67 walks in the 83 innings and 63 strikeouts. So he could not get the ball over the plate. And 3 years in a row, he had an ERA of 7 at least. But he kept coming back, and they kept letting him.
Another lefty from that era that I forgot about, Carmen Cali, who was supposed to be, I think, a decent prospect with the Cardinals, but this was 2007. Never a top prospect, so maybe I'm just, again, remembering Cardinals fans really gassing it up. But let's do this. Let's pause. We do have 3 names left, but they're pretty inconsequential, so they can fit into the back end of a break here. But again, let's wrap it up with our final break, and then we'll haul through here for the last couple names.
All right.
Are you ready to tackle the NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book? I sure hope so, because we've been talking about it for a little while here. Right now, you can get, if you make a $5 bet and it hits, you're a brand new customer, you get $150 in bonus bets, as long as that $5 bet hits. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL, and it's all in one place. And guess what else is there? It gives you the latest stats, live play-by-play, and so much more in the same place, the same page where you place your bets. So if you get a hunch in the middle of the game that you want to get in on the action, the FanDuel app is the place for you. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. And again, $150 in bonus bets if that first $5 bet hits. But I tell you, this last weekend, I was imagining someone in a survivor pool picking Kansas City last week and finally getting to have Kansas City against a bad team. And, this is the time of year when those pools are starting to be, they're starting to end. And just imagine if you'd have been eliminated had the Panthers completed that comeback or had held off the Chiefs. So that time of year, man, it's crazy season. It's silly season. So make sure that $5 bet's going to hit. Pick something you are really, really sure about. But that's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Dave, we're coming down the mountain when we come. February 20th, 2009, Twins signed the 3-time Futures Gamer. Hints, let's see. Royals prospect, corner guy, and 3-time Futures Game participant.
And Harvey.
Nope. Well, Ken Harvey did spend time in the Twins system, but I think that was further back. This guy was, again, a corner guy, 1 hit with the Twins and 2 at-bats, if I'm remembering correctly.
From Hawaii? Was he from Hawaii?
Nope. Australia, actually, I think.
Crikey.
Justin Huber.
Oh, yeah.
Remember Justin Huber?
Vaguely.
So Justin Huber, I was actually going to pull up his prospect rankings, and minus 1.1 WAR. He was a number 66 prospect in Baseball America before 2003, and a number 84 prospect before 2006. I don't know if I remember a 3-year gap where a guy was a prospect, wasn't a prospect, was a prospect again. Played in the Futures game in 2002, 2003, and 2005. So 2004, who knows? Your guess is as good as mine. He was initially a Mets prospect. And let's see, I'm trying to remember how he went over.
He traded for David Cohn in 1987.
Jose Bautista in 2004. Yes, that Jose Bautista. So he was traded for Jose Bautista, the Joseph of Bats. Joseph A. Bats is what I like to call him, like Joseph A. Bank, I think it was a clothing store. Clothier. Anyway, so yeah, Justin Huber got into a couple games with the actually 1 game, 2 plate appearances, big time prospect. The Twins had a few guys they signed like that. J.R. Tolles was another one, a catching prospect with the Astros, where I just irrationally clung to the idea that maybe he'll figure it out with the Twins. And I'm here to tell you, J.R. Tolles did not figure it out with the Twins, and Justin Huber never played again in the major leagues after 2009, his one game with the Twins.
Went back to Australia in shame. No, hopefully not. I'm kidding.
Melbourne. He went back and played in Melbourne for, until 2014-15, and it did not have much success. Not a big power hitter after leaving the States. But anyway, vet, second base, Prayer. Now, the Twins in 2005 brought in Brett Boone. I don't know if you remember that, but it was a disaster.
I do remember that. Yeah,
it was horrible. And I think he played 10, 12 games, and that was it. This was a better player, but he did not make it to the major leagues, and a pretty dang good player, I might add. He ended up playing not with the Twins. This was July 19th, 2009. So in 2009, the Twins, that was the year that they Alexi Casilla drives in Carlos Gomez. They beat the Tigers.
Alexei?
Yeah, the game-winning hit against the Tigers in that classic game that was on TBS.
We won't see tomorrow night, will we, with that one?
No, exactly. And so this guy was an Expo, a Dodger, a Cub, Cardinal for 1 year, very good year, a Royal, had a year off, closed out his career in 2010 with Cleveland. Any guesses?
David Howard.
Mark Grudzielanek.
Oh, all right. Grudzy.
26.5 career WAR. I was convinced in 09, the Twins had a long stretch of guys like Matt Tolbert and Nick Punto and a bunch of guys. Like second base was a pretty big, vast, barren wasteland after Chuck Knobloch was traded to the Yankees. Like Luis Rivas was there forever, and he was real bad. Like real bad. Like he was fast, and like Christian Guzman was what Luis Rivas wanted to be, and Christian Guzman was like couldn't really hit, but he could field and he could run. Like he could run like the wind, and Rivas couldn't really do any of those things except run. And so like Twins fans are just like, could we please get a decent second baseman? Same as third base, honestly. And shortstop was never that great either. At least Jason Barlow was decent. So, yeah, I wonder that the Twins were good when they didn't have much of an infield. Anyway, I thought Grudzielanek was going to be their savior. He was 39 years old. And I just thought, you know what, that was my like peak on base percentage era. I wanted the Twins to trade for like Marco Scutaro back then. And,
he draws breath. He draws a walk.
Yes. And so Grudzielanek goes down to rookie ball, gets 10 at-bats, gets 3 hits. They send him up to New Britain. By the way, with the GCL Twins in 09, he was 19.4 years above the average age of the league. By the time he got to AA, though, he was only 14.6 years above the league average age of about 24, 25. Anyway.
He bought a steak for some guys when they went out to eat.
Got 33 plate appearances, 30 at-bats, 8 hits, none of them for extra bases, and was summarily let go. Finished his career with Cleveland the next year, 600 OPS, age 40. So good for him for playing 15 years in the bigs, 20 years across all levels, and 26 and a half Baseball Reference WAR. That's a pretty dang good career.
I did an interview once with he and Todd Walker were platooning on the Cubs. And the interview with Grudzielanek and the other half with Walker. That was my gimmick. So my Q&A. So yeah, that was before he was with the Twins, but I think 2004, something like that. So
yeah,
good platoon. I mean, he's better than a platoon player, but that was a good platoon to have.
Yeah, that's a really nice one, actually. And then finally, on August 28th, 2009, Twins picked up a guy that the Royals had DFA'd and cut, Ron Mayhay. Now, Ron Mayhay, hard to explain this era, but like, again, Aaron Fultz and Ron Mayhay and all these guys, like they were just ubiquitous lefties. Their stuff wasn't even like crazy good, but they'd be like 89, but would have a good two-seamer that could get grounders or slider they could paint on the outside corner. And these guys made a career and a pretty nice living, I might add, out of being good enough to get whether it was Justin Morneau, Joe Mauer, Travis Hafner, Jim Tomei out on a semi-regular basis. Ron Mayhew was one of those guys. Career 7.9 Baseball Reference WAR despite a whip of 1.42.
Yeah, he put a few guys on base. I think he threw a little harder than your Aaron Foltz, but at least at one time he did. Another ex-Cub, big, tall, blonde fella, Ron Mayhew. I used to say, Mayhew, goodbye, when he'd leave the game, but just to myself, not so anyone could hear.
Well, the Twins were his last team, so that would have been apt. 2010, he was re-signed by the Twins. He was worth 0.4 Baseball Reference WAR, 3.44 ERA, 4.23 FIP, 1.21 WHIP. So again, perfectly decent cog in the bullpen. Not unlike like a Terry Mulholland from a few years before that. And so, yeah, all these names that I'm sure fans of a certain age would remember, you and I both of that certain age, but I'm sure fans of, born in the 2000s are like, who are these guys talking about?
Well, it's a good thing that no one born in the 2000s listens to podcasts, because then, well, maybe I look at it like this. It's a learning experience. You get to hear about all the people from before you were born, before you were sentient.
For the next one, spoiler alert, Mark McLemore makes an appearance. So that should be fun. Well, that is a wrap for this edition of Locked On Twins. Hope you are enjoying your Thanksgiving week. Stay safe and healthy this holiday season with your family, friends, loved ones, whoever you spend it with. And he's Dave Brown. He's going to be taking a little bit of time off here, but we'll have some fill-in guests and that sort of thing. We'll have some fun with it. So if we don't talk to you before then, Dave, thank you and enjoy your holidays. We'll see you real soon. And to everyone else, thanks for joining us. Again, he's Dave Brown. I'm Brandon Warren, and we'll see ya
tomorrow
night. Tomorrow night.
Maybe not literally tomorrow.
Lexi, you see it.
Figurative tomorrow.